I'm a Clinton Democrat, which means I voted for Trump 3 times, but love,
Okay,
love.
obviously, of
It's a
course. Yep.
funny
Yeah.
definition of Clinton Democrat, but
Yeah,
I
I
get
was
it.
gonna say,
exactly.
I'm sure he likes that.
Yeah.
But it's funny you brought this up about the Tucker thing because I've watched you guys from the beginning. This is the first time I have felt passionate enough to call in about something. Um, Charlie Kirk's death hit me really hard. I didn't know him. I had a 27-year-old son that died of a fentanyl overdose, and some of it may have been that. But the fact that Tucker would not only have this guy on, but also then not push back on him. Somebody that said he loves Stalin, he hates Charlie Kirk, he hates Erica, all the mean things he said. And then Tucker is just kind of agreeing with him, but yet he'll have on Ted Cruz and push back on him. So my question really was to Sean about I don't think we should have a big tent party that includes people like Nick Fuentes. And then also, I feel like the Democrats, and Dan, if you could answer this, they became such a big tent party and let everybody in. Then they have, Zoran Mendani in New York. And so I'm very upset. I canceled my Tucker subscription. I just can't like the fact that this guy is so full of hatred, the things he said, Tucker didn't say anything back to him, and the things he said about Charlie is just unacceptable. Like it's unacceptable. So if you guys could answer
Yeah,
that,
Tara,
thank
thank
you.
you for that, and our heart breaks for you about your son. It's just tragic,
Thank
and
you.
and
I'll go
just so
ahead and
sorry
mute.
you have to deal with that every day. I'm sure. Sean, and then Dan.
Tara, I will give you a free subscription to the Sean Spicer Show. It is free, but I'm double downing on free. So, um, look, I haven't I maybe I will go listen to it based on the conversation that we're having. I haven't heard the whole conversation. I will say this: there's a difference between a big tent, and I agree with you in that. I don't want anti-Semites, people who are racist or have vitriol or support violence or things like that in my tent. But I do think that that's different between allowing them to as I said the other day, I want to expose people for that reason. I actually think it's the opposite. If somebody has views that are abhorrent to some degree, you want everyone to know about it. Be like, this is what they believe. Like when they actually get minimized is when you have a problem. So I am a big believer in more free speech. I don't think that means you allow them in your tent, so to speak. I don't want people like that, but I also want them. It doesn't mean that you give them a speaking role somewhere, but I also think that that doesn't mean that you cancel them entirely so that people can't, because that's actually when you create problems. When you minimize that, if you think about what you talked about, Charlie, part of what he fostered was the idea of getting those ideas out, getting good, bad, letting people hear it all and going, wow, that person's a nut job or they're a horrible person. But when you actually cancel them, then you almost in a way help them because you push that underground and you don't allow that voice to be exposed for what it is.
Dan.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think part of the problem is Mark said before, like Trump had dinner with Nick Fuentes. It was not an accident. I don't believe whatsoever. It was a dog whistle. That's what it was, right? Trump's very good at dog whistling, sometimes foghorns. But it is, Sean made the point, like winning campaigns have to have big tents and how you finesse that. Like, I want Mandani's energy. I want Bernie Sanders' energy and AOC's energy. And I also want, the business community to think that we're receptive and we are receptive and we're willing to work with them. That's why it's really hard to hold coalitions together for more than two election cycles, because at some point people say you need to deliver for me and you can't deliver for everybody at once. So it's hard, and that's when you get something new. Every couple of years you get these new iterations.
Can I
Tara,
just one other thing that's interesting to note, and I hate doing this, but I also feel it's fascinating. Nick Fuentes, I actually I can't remember if we're having this conversation on or off air, but like I can't say I've spent any more time looking him up or than I mean I don't even want to compare it. Like I don't know much about the guy except for what I've heard and read, and that has inspired me not to spend a ton of time on that. But at the same time, you've got a guy that's about to be mayor of New York City that literally is hanging around with unindicted co-conspirators from 9/11 who has espoused socialist slash communist views. And we're having a discussion about whether or not Tucker Carlson could have a podcast with a guy versus National Democrats and electing a guy who,
Well, they're not. New York City is.
well, New York City is, but who has stood
Tucker.
on, and I'm just like, there's a level to which, like, what are we doing? We're discussing whether Tucker Carlson had a dude on a podcast and didn't push back enough, and whether or not Hakeem Jeffries and others are endorsing a guy who literally stood with terrorists. And I'm going, there's a false
Well,
equivalency.
you don't think Tucker's more powerful than the mayor of New
I
York
was
City?
just about to say that.
I mean,
Well-
he is.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.